Right, we are. I think we'll get started. It looks like the bulk of people have joined us, and we'll get going because we'd like to honor everybody's time this evening and make sure we finish at around 6:15. So we'll try and keep things moving along here. Well, first of all, I just want to say good evening to everybody again, and thank you for joining John, Anne, Paolo, Lisa, and myself this evening. I want to say that we're all looking forward to returning to campus as soon as possible on a regular basis. And I also just personally want to offer a tremendous feeling of gratitude and thanks to those who offered, critical feedback along the way. We're not impervious to criticism. I also appreciated the partnership and the concern shown for all of those in our community who are less fortunate and have been obviously disproportionately affected by this global phenomena. And I also want to thank you, our parents, so much for sharing with us your trust and your confidence in our team over the last 15 months. And it is really a pleasure to work with our families, and is exactly why our school distinguishes itself as a special community. And personally, I would like to thank the hundreds of well-wishers and words of unity and friendship that were offered to me personally over the last 15 months. They were all sincerely appreciated and really did help indeed to keep our spirits up, and sincerely appreciated by all encompassing. So it looks like good time to start. It looks like most people are here now. So as always, our goal continues as it has been since last October, to maximize the amount of in-person learning for our students within obvious health, safety, and any regulatory constraints. And continuing to that theme this evening, I'm going to provide, as will Anne and John and Paolo and Lisa, more detail on the model that we have in place for August. And just a couple of housekeeping points for this session. As we speak, please feel free to post your questions in the chat. And when posting your questions, please make clear the grade you are directing the question towards. And we may not answer all the questions today, but we can use them as the basis for future grade specific information, and we'll provide you with those dates as well this evening. Also, if you haven't joined us more recently on some of the webinars, there's a new language feature we have added to our Zoom account. And you'll notice there is a button towards the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And here you'll find there is a language translation option. So if you'd like to choose your language of choice, go ahead and do that right now. There's a small globe there with the word interpretation and translation. Okay, Bruno, would you mind going to the next slide? Okay, I'm just going to give a second or two for people to have a look at this slide. While you're reading that, I think you will all agree that we've adopted from the beginning of the pandemic a stance of great humility, understanding that what we know today may look very different tomorrow. But I think you would agree that we've had a very thoughtful and consistent strategy that has allowed us to bring our students to campus every day for some time now. And the good news is that we're able to expand the time on campus for longer hours beginning in August, which is a great celebration and a definite relief. That said, things may change over a week or a weekend. I think we've discovered that over the last year. And I'm sure we'll be asking for your patience during the semester, as we may have to draw on our ability to be adaptable again. Let's hope that's not the case when it comes to the country and the cities and our community's health, which is the determining factor in each scenario we have either experienced together or indeed we've planned for. Please know that we remain committed to a healthy, resilient return to campus, and we're all aware that the classroom will continue to look very different than a typical school year. That goes without saying. However, we will continue to follow the science as a commitment to being students of every member of our community's health. It is something that I hope you've come to rely on from us, and it will long continue. So let's take a moment to look at the scenarios we have either experienced already or we have already planned for August. As we know, and this is maybe just a reference for the new families who are joining us this evening, currently one of the most significant constraints is that only 35% of enrolled students are permitted to be on a campus. Another, obviously, is the prevalence of COVID-19 in the Avenues community. But over the last 2 months, our positivity rate was very low, ranging from about 0.6 to 0.61%. And it's imperative that we continue to do our part to avoid contracting and transmitting COVID-19 by adhering to our health and safety pledge. It keeps our community safe and allows for in-person learning to be possible. And when you can't be on campus, as you know, we are really fortunate to have best-in-class online learning available. However, let's just have a look at the scenario that is titled Scenario 2. We know now that the education authorities and the Health Council will allow for 100% of student capacity as per the announcement yesterday. What that means is that this anticipates an increase in the allowable enrollment capacity on a campus, which actually we've been appealing for since last November. The subtle difference between enrollment capacity and space capacity makes a huge difference for us as a school. The reason why, quite simply, is our building capacity, the space that is built, it is very comfortably able to host around 2,100 students. And we are anticipating by August that we will have around 1,300 students on our capacity. Thus, the capacity of our space will be closer to 60%, which is well below what is allowable. And it again allows us to not only meet, but exceed any expected standards for health and safety. However, if things change and greater limits are imposed upon us due to the health situation, you'll note that we have an incremental set of models that we can move into nimbly. The good news is that even if we have to move to 70% capacity, this model would still allow us to welcome all students in grades Small World through 5 come to campus for learning every day, while secondary students would be at a reduced time on campus. But it seems at this moment, we don't have to be overly concerned about that. So let's focus our attention to Scenario 2, the 100% schedule, and I'm sure I can hear many people cheering from afar. This means we'll see all students on campus every day with some limits. There will be no mixing, and indeed there will be some online learning such as our extension activities or the advanced electives for secondary students. And the reason why, as you can appreciate, after school activities require mixing of students, and our advanced electives for our secondary students also often require mixing of groups. So those sorts of activities will continue online until students are vaccinated. And let's hope there's news afoot about the efforts in Brazil to vaccinate students that will hopefully come apparent to us in the next month or so. So thus you can see we are preparing to have all students on campus every day, but let me reiterate that this is predicted by public health decree. We are, as was the case in the last couple of months, and may be required in August to operate at reduced student capacity at any given time in the semester. If we have to close by public health decree, we'll adapt full-time online learning, and thus learning will always continue uninterrupted, no matter what, given that we've got a range of thorough and effective scenarios that continue to provide high value and a world-class education. I think that's all I really need to say on this slide. The next slide is very, very similar. This is the same slide of information, but for grades 6 through 12. Just take a moment again to look at the Scenario 2, the 100% schedule. Again, let me reiterate, we'll see all students on campus every day with no mixing, while there'll be some online learning for our oldest secondary students. I only present this so you are aware that we are preparing, if need be, to be able to move nimbly between one scenario to another. And we have each scenario very detailed and planned out. So no matter what we do, you can always count on us to know that we'll move swiftly and expediently between one scenario and the other. But let's hope that's not the case. And we plan, as I said, to lean into and we're really focusing on efforts in scenario 2. I think I'm going to now pass it over to Anne, because while we've got scenarios in place, we also are going to ask that you are very careful continuing to support our health efforts. So Anne, you want to just talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So welcome and thank you for joining us tonight to learn more about our planned return. And a very special welcome to our new families who are joining us in August. And so while I know that our current families know this really well, I think we'll take a little bit of time just to go over it because of our new families too. So what will continue throughout the next semester? We're going to be testing students weekly and of course all our members of our faculty and staff as part of the multifaceted mitigation approach. This also includes mask wearing, washing hands, limiting close contacts by remaining in our circles, deep cleaning protocols. This will allow us to confidently bring all the grades back to campus, as Andy was saying. As you know, the faculty are really well trained and have the experience guiding students appropriately in these COVID measures. I had a meeting with a nursery mom today of a new student worried about mask wearing. And don't worry, you know, now we're really used to even supporting our smaller students to start wearing their masks in school. So these strict health and safety standards have been submitted to authorities. We've exceeded the standards that they expect, and which includes the testing, as I said. Regarding no mixing, one of the important things that we need, of course, is the support of parents. So I want to thank all the parents that have adhered to our request of no carpools, limiting the parties and the mixing after school. It's been amazing to have the support from parents, and we can see that the results have been great because of that. We're going to continue to use well-ventilated spaces, so large classrooms, the commons areas and the outdoor spaces. And we invested in an exceptional ventilation system, which is actually better than hospital grade standards. And we do have quality monitoring air sensors. So, you know, we're always monitoring the air quality inside the rooms as well. But as you know, we have to always remember that testing is not the only mitigation strategy, and we will continue to follow each one of these safety protocols all the time. They're as relevant on campus as they are when students are off campus, and that's why we will continue to ask for your help to maintain access to campus for all throughout the next semester. We also understand that what we know today may look very different tomorrow and things may change, but we remain committed to a healthy, resilient return to campus. And we are all aware that the classroom will continue to look different than a typical school year, but we are very excited about the differences that can also be innovative and interesting for students. And we also know that with the increased vaccination of teachers, like Andy was saying, during this semester, it will mean trying to bring a bit of the familiar routines back as the year progresses. But our pre-pandemic conditions will only be back once all community members are vaccinated. Thanks, and now I'll pass it on to John.
Okay, good evening. I'm John Chilello. I'm head of the secondary division, and I want to welcome the new families as well to our webinar tonight. I look forward to meeting you virtually for now, but also getting to know your sons or daughters. So continuing with the safety protocols, which have been so effective for us throughout this year, this slide will show you that some of the measures that we put in place to keep everyone safe here on school and at home. So one of the amazing things that we created is we have a QT app, it's called. So for the new families, you'll learn more about this. You actually just register every morning and it comes up with a barcode or a QR code and you show that to the security. and it lets them know that you've gone through the procedures and can come on campus. Students have reusable bottles so that we don't have paper cups or sharing of cups or glasses. We have mask stations throughout our building and all the floors throughout the school. Hand sanitizers the same, they're in all the classrooms. We have disinfecting sprays. We follow all the health and safety protocols. And on our QA app, we have a health and safety pledge. Another amazing thing that we've been able to do and has made a tremendous difference is we do weekly testing. So every Thursday, parents, the students, teachers, everyone who's on campus will do a test for COVID. And this way we can also monitor, and you'll learn more about this in just a moment. But what it is through our monitoring system, we ask that if a student does have a fever or any symptoms of COVID, they stay at home and they can contact the school nurse. We have disinfecting rugs and we have thermal cameras. We take temperatures when you come into the gates as students arrive. Like I said, we have the hand sanitizers and temperature checks throughout. To have tracking systems so that we can, if anyone does test positive, we know who they've been in contact with, which also helps us to control that. On the next slide, you're going to see what you would see on our QT app that you would find on your cell phone. And on the cell phone, we ask that you monitor your symptoms. It'll ask you questions as you go through that you respond to. This is daily. If you have any of these symptoms, we ask that you self-quarantine at home. Tracking contacts throughout the school if someone is positive is one of our safety protocols. And we ask, as Ann mentioned, that you refrain from organizing, hosting, or attending any large events that may cause safety risks to you or our community. And once again, our school nurses, which is nurse-sp@avenues.org, are always available to answer your questions and for you to reach out to. Now I'll turn it over to Paulo.
Hello, good evening. I'm Paulo Pita. I'm the Director of Operations. I'm going to talk about testing. So first of all, thank you very much for your partnership in our testing program so far. We will keep our testing efforts in weekly cycles. The cycles start every Thursday. So for example, if your child will come to school in the week of August 9, he or she would need to get tested in the previous Thursday, right? So tests will be available at the school in boxes like this on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, and Thursdays are for dropping off tests at school. And we will continue testing in weekly cycles, regardless of vaccination status. And we have the intention of doing that until the end of 2021. Bruno, if you could move to the next slide, please. Well, as a recommendation for international travelers, please contact the school nurse to let us know your kid will travel abroad. We will, of course, there is the official recommendation for the PCR test 3 days before the flight. And when you get to Brazil, we will need a short quarantine of 4 days. For example, if you get to Brazil on a Sunday, then we need to wait for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and get tested on the Wednesday. Get tested on the 4th day after you come to Brazil. So after you arrive in Brazil. And if this test is negative, then it's okay to come back to campus. Bruno, if you could move to the next slide. So how to submit a test. Test kits will be available at the school in boxes like this. There will be 4 tests in each box. Inside the box, there's a very straightforward paper with instructions. It's pretty simple. You have to just brush your teeth, wait a little bit, collect the saliva in this little vial, just a little bit of saliva, 2 milliliters of saliva. And don't forget to attach the barcode tag here and register on the Mandelics website. So it's pretty straightforward. Then after that, just put the vial in this plastic bag, put both of them inside this bag, seal it to make sure that everyone is safe with the samples will not leak, and just drop the test off at school, right? Bruno, if you could move to the next slide. Yes. If you have questions or if you want to know more information about testing, just go to Open. There's a lot of information there. If you don't have a Mendelix account yet, because of a limitation of a Mendelix system, they can have only one email. So we set up the account using the mother's email that we have on the school's register, but we can change this email at any time. So whatever you need in terms of your account, if you need to change the email or anything, or you have a question, send an email to Nurse SP and the nurses will be very glad to help. Now over to you, Anne. Thank you.
Hi again. So I'm going to make it really simple today because we are meeting again in the beginning of August, and I'll be able to spend more time on the primary division with all of you. But I wanted just to give a very brief overview of how it will look like in general terms. So as always, transformative and exceptional education remains our priority. And so when we do return to the classroom, you're going to expect to see groups of no more than 24 students with 2 teachers. So even though until 2nd grade, do we have a head teacher and an associate teacher, and from 3rd, 4th, 5th, we only have 1 homeroom teacher. The way we are planning it is that our specialist teachers will be moving from class to class every week, as we have been piloting now during this time. And so there will always be 2 teachers in the class. This has been a really great learning experience for us. And having these specialists inside the classroom, really getting to know the students, has been wonderful. They have also become much more close as a cohort of teachers who plan the curriculum together for each grade. And so real interdisciplinary learning has been happening. So this will be happening from pre-K to 5th. So students will delve more deeply into 2 specialist subjects, as well as their other subjects, for 8 weeks, and then they'll rotate. This is aligned actually with some current educational thinking about how the brain learns, and some also motivation theory. And interestingly, of course, this will also support relationships, as students will get to know the specialist teachers more profoundly. The specialists will get to know their students better and be able to provide support in lots of different learning areas. So they get to see the child as a holistic person, rather than just when the child is in their art lesson or music lesson, as normally happens. Obviously, there'll be continued support from our student success team and from our English learning support and Portuguese learning support teachers. And because of non-mixing, we will be providing some moments where students will, in the class, go online to be able to have smaller groups within this larger setting. So that's also an exciting piece that we're going to be trialing. And then moving on to the schedule itself, we actually go back to our normal schedule. Okay, so this is a schedule that we couldn't even remember because we did it a year and a half ago, but we were like remembering all the start times and ending times and our Wednesday early release time. So I'll give you a moment just to look at the arrival and dismissal moments. Obviously, there won't be play lab. So those families that used to leave their children in play lab. Oh, can you just go back a little bit, Bruna? Yeah, thanks. Those families that used to keep their children in play lab, they'll just stay on in their classroom while they wait for their older brother or sister. So we've organized that. And I just think that it's really important to mention that there will no longer be distance-only learning or DAL. So the only reason why students will go online will be if, for some reason, we go back to a hybrid half-day model, but also if the whole class circle or class closes because someone tests positive. That would be another reason for going online. So in August, when we're having just the primary division webinar, I will be going through the schedules in a bit more detail so that we can understand the schedules for each different age group. I want to just let you know about what's happening now in the break. So now you can go to the next slide. So we have Campus, which is some 2 weeks where children can actually come, until 3rd grade, can actually come to campus and be part of some fun experiences on campus related to play. And then we do have Return. This is for our returning students, not for our new students yet. And it's only for the rising 1st and 2nd graders. And this will be an opportunity to dive deep into English language through fun and interactive small classroom experiences. And they're going to have a chance to practice their sounds and letters, some read alouds, and write words and sentences. And so I think that's it for the primary division, and I pass it on to John again.
All right, so let's now talk a little bit about secondary division. So on the following slide, it's very similar to what Anne just spoke about. We will continue as well with small groups of students with 1 teacher. Actually, many of the groups have 2 teachers in the room. And because of the, we can't mix students at this time, they'll stay in their project groups with teachers rotating through the projects after each testing cycle. The priority as always, especially because of the pandemic, is really paying close attention to relationships, sense of belonging, and the personalized feedback that the students need. We will have hands-on experience and face-to-face learning as much as possible within those groups, and to differentiate instruction based on student need and also create independent learners. Our teachers will work interdisciplinarily with each grade. So could be a science teacher working with an art teacher, or a world course teacher working with the Portuguese teachers. So we do interdisciplinary lessons and planning, and the teachers plan together. Some of it will still be asynchronous or synchronous learning online. Those will be the electives, because once again, because of the mixing, since we cannot mix students, they'll be doing a lot of those activities will be done online. We still provide support from our student success team, which we call SST. Our deans are available as well for all our students. And we have our second language support staff for English and Portuguese. Our classrooms will focus on and our safe environments for students, but they also focus on our 3 pillars of welcome, safety, and respect. So for new students joining us, that's always something that we really help them with their transition to our school. And we help them, we pair them up with a buddy. We also have new students returning. They'll be with different groups. So we're always focused on making sure all students are welcomed, all students feel safe, and all of us are respected. Moving to the next slide, you're going to see the time, all right? This is at 100% capacity, and this is on the next slide. We have, just move to one more slide, please. There we go. Okay, yeah. If you go back one, maybe it's, okay. Just getting, our times, just to reinforce that, is we have the same arrival and dismissal time as Anne mentioned, and we also will have an early dismissal on Wednesdays, okay? And this is to provide time for us to bring all our faculty together to do planning and also professional development. On this slide, you'll see that this is a sample schedule, okay? This is what a typical 7th grade student, okay, if we go one more, there we go. This is what a typical 7th grade student would have in a school day, all right? So they would come to school, have Portuguese, that's in the classroom in person. They'd move to their math class. Now WAM, as you see, WAM is coming back, but will be online, or it'll be low impact, maybe like yoga, stretching. We cannot have any of these, any of the sports at this time until the pandemic, COVID is under control with that. And So but we do have WHAM, health and movement. Then they move to lunch. Lunch will be in the classrooms or on the floors here by each floor. And then we move into our project groups. And these are the interdisciplinary classes that will be going on. And then they come together at the end of the day in their circles to meet with their teachers, to have O3s, which are their one-on-ones, to talk with them individually, or to just come back and to provide some feedback about the day. Once again, we'll have the early dismissal for them would be at 2:45. They would be leaving. Our teachers stay until 4:30, where we can meet together to do projects and planning. On the next slide, this is a typical 11th grade or a 12th grade schedule for the older ones. So we actually group a little bit more middle grades, and then we have what we call upper grades. So we can, with the 10th, 11th, and 12th, we're actually for electives, they can be joined together in a group, okay? But once again, we don't mix, but in their projects, you could have 11th grader with a 12th grader for one of their elective classes. If you look at the schedule now, you'll see that in the mornings, they're at home doing an elective or a math class on a week one, which could be the even weeks and then the odd weeks, and they'll do an elective. So it rotates between math at home or an elective, once again, because the electives are mixed. Then they're on school. They'll do an elective in person, a math class in person on the next week, move into their projects, and have finished the rest of the day in their project groups. We scaffold our entrance and exit so that we have the drop off and the pickup of cars. We can control that flow that comes into our campus. And so each of those schedules are adapted for that. And now I believe I turn this over to Lisa Peixoto to talk about our Avenues São Paulo Online.
I think I'm going to do that, John, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. No, it's totally fine. I just want to make clear before, Bruna, thank you. Yeah, if you could go to that slide and just stay on there for a second or two. As you know, in a note I sent out last week, we're now offering a new option for Avenues São Paulo Online, which is brand new for 2021-22. You might note that it's separate and distinct from distance learning that our current Sao Paulo students have engaged in the last 15 months. Avenues São Paulo Online program is truly a purpose-built program specifically designed to be full-time, long-term online schooling, as opposed to the shift we made to distance learning due to the impact of the pandemic. Full-time learning, as you may or may not know, has previously not been permissible in Brazil. So we feel fortunate to now be able to offer a brand new solution for Brazilian families who want to provide their children with a truly transformative learning experience that Avenues offers. For those families, who are unsure about returning to campus next semester, and there may still be people who are nervous, understandably, this is an option I would ask that you to consider, as the only online learning for our Sao Paulo campus will be if a circle has to close and then the teacher and the whole class, the circle has to maybe quarantine for a 10-day period. If you remember, the distance-only learning that I've just referenced was created to meet the needs of parents who were nervous about returning during a heightened pandemic response. If you recall, at one point we were in a purple phase. But with improved safety and decreased health risks, along with this unique Avenues Online option, we'll no longer have distance-only learning. I just want to be very clear about that. So Avenues Online is for students in grades 4 through 12. It is something where if you are interested in enrolling, it is for a semester in length. It's not that you toggle 1 week on online and then come to campus 1 week. We're looking for consistency and building community and relations with the students and the teachers. So that can be done with a dedicated online faculty as well. If you're interested in finding more about Avenues Sao Paulo online, there's a webinar that's going to start at 6:30 this evening, when there would be a tremendous amount of more information about that. And I don't think I need to go into too much detail. And the link, actually, I think Lisa is going to put the link for that in the chat. So if anybody's interested, I'm more than welcome to join us. So again, I just want to be very clear that in next semester, if you're interested in continuing doing learning online, this is the program that we're asking you to choose for a semester. And I think you'll find it quite rewarding. I think that's it at the moment. So Lisa, I think we can open it up for the last slide, which is just a glance at a reminder of the calendar for the year. Bruna, could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So again, welcoming everybody back to campus. There are just a few dates for the first 3 months of school. It starts with virtual meetings for parents. So we'll come together again in August, on August the 9th and the 10th, because by that time, you know, approximately 2 months from now, we'll know for certain whether we're, as we are, 100% on campus, or let's keep everything crossed, fingers and everything else. The health situation continues to improve in Sao Paulo, and we go forward with the 100% plan. But of course, we don't have a crystal ball, and you know now that we've got other scenarios that we have thoroughly planned for. But again, we'll just confirm everything and go through more details, as always, on August the 9th and the 10th. We'll have a similar webinar for everybody. I think that's it. I think we can open it up for the last few minutes for question and answer, if that's okay. Lisa, do you want to field some questions?
Okay. Oops, sorry. If we have a middle grader and an upper grader student, will we have to drop off twice at 8 and 10:20?
Yeah, oh, that's a good question. So for the upper grades, which is 10 through 12, they do have those online electives. If you have that particular situation, please let us know, and we could find a location in school where they could do the online here and then just go to their class afterwards, which is going to be on campus. So yes, we can accommodate those requests.
And just going along that, what is the schedule, the time for students leaving in 6th and 9th grade, which you briefly touched on?
It's staggered, and it goes until 3:40. So it's in between. It's a 30-minute staggered schedule in there for the secondary.
Students from 10th to 12th, seems to be with you, John, will be able to be on campus to do their electives, even being online.
The morning time, yes. Yeah, it's the only, all right, that's correct.
And for you, do classes on the, as aulas inicia que dia para o first? So what day for first graders?
So kindergarten to 5th grade, they start on the Tuesday, the day after secondary division comes. It's the 17th, right? And then the 18th, 19th, and 20th are staggered start for Small World Nursery and Pre-K.
We have a question about entrance and dismissal procedures. It doesn't tell me the grade level, but.
I can answer that, Lisa. The entrance and dismissal procedures for our returning families will not be any different than you've experienced over the last 2 or 3 months. It's very well organized. It does require some patience, and I'm going to throw a little shout out here at the beginning of this. We're going to need your patience in the first 3 weeks of school. We have new students at school. They have to learn the procedures and protocols for dismissal. What I can promise you is that we know the first week dismissal is going to take longer than week 2, and week 2 will take longer than week 3. And as people settle into the routines and know when's the right place to or time to arrive, and the students know which is the best way to navigate to their cars, things will improve. I really am, I'm going to probably reiterate this over the next few months, but we're going to need your patience, just like any other school in the world that I've ever been involved in for 30 years, to know that the first few weeks of school is about getting students safely back to parents. It's not about speed. It is about safety. So please bear with us with that. And we can explain the entrance and dismissal procedures closer to August.
So with that, Andy, I just want to say thank you to everybody's presence today. If there's any questions that still need to be answered, please don't hesitate to reach out. We can answer them by email. But Andy, you want to make your closing?
No, that's it. And I, again, just want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. Just to reiterate, we'll continue to communicate with you during July, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody in August. And onwards and upwards, here we go. We're looking forward to seeing on the students on campus, and the last few days of school, of course, are upon us. And we've got some amazing work to share, not unlike if you had the opportunity to see the 9th grade presentation this evening. Tomorrow we continue with the younger students, and then we've got 5th term presentations next Tuesday. I would encourage you to join those celebrations of learning. I'm looking forward to that myself. Again, thanks everybody. And if I don't see you before the break, hopefully you have an enjoyable, restful break. Stay safe, and we'll look forward to seeing you in August. Good night, everyone.
Night.